But everybody will have a different point. So here's Cancer up in the 10th house, Aries moon, 7th house, Virgo rising. It's a very social, functional, business-oriented person. That sun up high, Mercury up high. But if you think as an astrologer, moon in the 7th house, to express things with other people, the Mercury up in the 10th house, sign Cancer. This is a positive thing for learning, writing, studying. But it's going to have to be applied in the world, applied out in the world. Mine's all down low in the chart. But her Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter all in the 1st house. Her Jupiter is at 28. Her Uranus at 0 degrees. So in her case, over the first 3 degrees of Jupiter, it's going to move up and it's going to conjunct the Uranus and move out of Virgo into Libra. Out of the Mercury ruled Jupiter, with her natal chart, you'll see Jupiter ruled by Mercury. Mercury's up high. Wow, look at that. But Pluto's on the ascendant. It's challenging. But that Jupiter moves into Libra, and suddenly the Venus becomes the inner rulership. And the need to get quality, or to find love, or be beautiful, or be loved, or make money, or whatever, it comes in. And then as soon as it does that, there's a need to do it in an exciting way. It hits the Uranus. It's going to change everything. Or I might have to change everything to be able to find that. So her understanding is going to go through the shifts of hitting the Uranus, going into Libra, the Venus rulership. Then it's going to come up and it's going to square. It's going to oppose the Moon, and then there's going to be a relative calm period going along after that. The understanding or misunderstanding of family would tie into family at that point. 95, so 69, 79, 89. By 25. Her Jupiter's opposing her family, her moon, her mother, her family, her home, where she's living. What am I doing here? Before that, the Jupiter was conjuncting Uranus, 79. So that she was only 10. There were big changes going on in her outlook at a very young age. If she wouldn't have been doing those, they would have been happening around her. Then it moved along, and 51. In 51, it'll move along and it'll square the sun. It's the moon squares the sun. And 55, it changes house. It goes out of the 1st house into the 2nd house. That's the story of Jupiter. It's all about my identity. Where do I go? What do I do? Am I traveling? Am I learning? What am I doing? But the Jupiter Uranus, that's good for astrology. The 1st house, the analytical side. The difficulty with this chart is having the impulsive moon and slowing down the energy to have to, like, I'm not sure. I don't remember what everybody's done right now, but that would be, you see the different shifts of her understanding coming through this. But at the same time, this Jupiter going up to, by the time it hit Uranus, it's moving all her life closer to this sudden change. Whether that was a trip, a travel, a move, a big change of family, whatever, but that change came in, or she got exposed to someone from another culture, other things. That's 10 years old. And by 95, Jupiter hits Uranus, and it's hit the Uranus in 79, but by 95, it's opposing the moon. So that would have grown, and understanding would have been wanting to break away from mom or family or something. Okay, so this is, and the Saturn, her Saturn moves very little bit too. It moves forward and retrogrades, stays within a degree. So it went retrograde in 2018, just last year, and won't go, it gets back to its own place in 2063. If she lives into her 90s, she might get her Saturn back to its own place. So her story of Saturn goes up from birth to 2018 and retrogrades back to 2063. And this is just a closer look at these. We just went over these dates and went over these, but these shifts, they're small shifts, but these little shifts are big things, because Jupiter will be 5 or 10 years in a degree, or like going over that area. It's going to just slowly, it's not something that happens overnight or on a day, on the exact day this happens. The trouble with some of the progress printouts, they tell you on this exact date. No, you need to have the degree before, degree after to see when it's within the degree orb. But then you have a much more complicated printout, whereas if you do all the planets together, they all scramble in. It's difficult to read. So if you do one planet at a time, that's the best way to do it. In this case, I'm just putting the exact dates down, but you know it's a phase of 3 or 4 years either on either side of this. This is going on. So it's like she's born in 69. So then from the time she started school, this Jupiter would have been coming up to conjunct the Uranus, running into new ideas, new things. Just have to imagine. Then you find that a few of the things will happen. All of a sudden, you touch with the story of the development of her understanding in her lifetime. Do I want to do this? Will I ever do this? Can I ever be good at this? You're seeing some of the points. Now the Saturn, I think I have the Saturn just below this. No. Okay, so we got to look at everybody. So it's just going to be quick comments and looking at it, but also once you have it organized, when you take the time to organize a chart and you work it and you put the progressions on it, you have the timing set up, you set up one planet at a time and you got it organized, you can go back and see these things clearly at other times, and you will many times, and you'll have to do this work over again. The calculations and things have been done. The difficulty with computer programs, you go back and you get that piles of information. You got to sift through all the stuff that isn't so relevant, or make an emphasis on being disproportionate in your expressions. So okay, here's some sun in Leo, or Shanghai, sun in Cancer. No, it's just in Cancer, end of Cancer. So it's going to, her progressed suns will go up to the midheaven. Her Mercury will go up towards the midheaven, and Venus is up in the 9th house going up towards the midheaven. So she has a strong emphasis of career, status, position, where she's going. Okay, and her Venus not afflicted. Her Jupiter opposes the moon. Wide, but it's still close enough to call it that. And the sun squares Mars. So this is their temperament. And Mercury Saturn has the caution around her own thinking in Cancer, sun in Cancer. Okay, so her Jupiter's in the 8th house of shared resources, of trust. So with this 8th house chart, it's easy to be married and be with someone and align and put your energy together to pay the rent, take care of things. It's cheaper to benefit. There's a lot of benefit by that. So she has a strong emphasis on finding someone to respond to and being able to respond to people. This is a good psychology. It's good for astrology. You know, communicate, respond to people, express, but it's also good in business or accounting or working with other people's resources as well. That's the setting side of the chart in a functional way above the horizon. But her Jupiter's in this 8th house of trust owners. It stays in her 8th house her whole life, trying to understand things, what was fair, what was trustworthy, what wasn't, how should it work, how shouldn't it work. So in her marriage, she would have to trust the person. It would go, if it got wrong, then there would be questions, why did I trust this, or what do I do next, where do I go? And her Jupiter's in Leo. It's ruled by the sun, which also it's in Cancer, but it's in the 8th house still. So the power of shared resources, doing business, all important things. But her Jupiter comes along, it builds up. It's not going to make any conjunction in her lifetime. It's going to move forward. It's going to go, if she lives to 2055, it will go into Virgo. But it's in Leo until then. It's in, ta-da, here I am. I got to be the best. I got to do the best. It's going to promote that understanding. But it's going to make these two aspects close together. It's going to hit her Moon and her Neptune. She's with the Moon Neptune square. So she's from China. She has some confusion with family, and at some point has left the country she was born in. You know, and married someone over here. Like, those are big changes. And the Jupiter is the understanding that developed along this way. So Jupiter in 2008 and 2012, it hit the moon first. Jupiter opposed the moon, exaggerating the moon or the finances involved with it, or the codependencies as Moon Neptune. So Jupiter is going through working out these domestic codependencies. Do I go back to China? Do I stay here? What's right? It could be prejudice in relationships, could be different cultural things going on, but certainly the business is there. But the big issues, her understanding went into this confusion and this somewhat into this confusing or distorted or bad habit side of her chart in between 2008 and 2012, and 3 or 4 years before and after that. So this is the whole period of, you could say, the Jupiter going through the 8th house of shared resources, but opposing The moon might be affecting her own resources, and there might be with Neptune some codependency tied in with it. But her understanding would have been trying to figure this out, exaggerating whatever. We figure things out by the mistakes we make, by the struggles we get. So there's some bunch of things is going on here. Whether she's paying for the partner's paying for her, or they're buying too much, or they're having challenges around it, or do they go home, or do they go back to China, or don't they? All of these issues are all there. Or maybe I can't, so now what am I going to do? Like things of these sort. And it moves along, but it passed that now, and she started studying her astrology in here. In the 8th house has a great time. Her chart's very good for understanding other people and advising other people, and it's building up. It will get up to, it doesn't make another aspect, another major aspect, but it will go into Virgo in 2055. It's a long way from that. She's still got Leo stuff to do. She still wants her understanding to shine, wants to develop and see something well. And she's lighting up from astrology, being able to use it. Okay, her Saturn is, it starts in the 4th house. It's retrograde, it retrogrades her whole life. It backs up, it goes into her IC. In 2027, so her Saturn backs up to her deepest point in her chart in 2027. That's 8 years from now, and it's still it's in that orb of where am I living, what am I doing, what do I want to do, do I stay, do I go? The Saturn, Mars, the Saturn in Aries is awkward in Aries. It's stop and go. I want to stop. No, we got to go. Has that, and she has that voice on her foundation. I stay at this job or don't I? Do I go independent or don't I? So I think her business sense kept her working in business for a lot of years, and I think this is part of her puzzle of trying to become the astrologer. At what point do you take the jump and do it? Okay. Yeah, so here we have something a little closer, but the same thing, we just have dealt with it. Just let you see the timing. So I like looking at the whole chart because then you can see all the aspects and see the natal chart coming in, but this was just to be able to clearly see. And then her Saturn, even though it's only moving 4 degrees in her lifetime, those degrees are all conjunct her IC. Her Saturn started conjunct her IC, but it starts conjunct, but it moves back to get even closer to the IC. So her point of security and motivation becomes stronger and stronger. It's right up till 2027. So even now, while she's studying, she's still looking at this depth of things. Okay.